The moment Arthur Gilpice's lips brushed Vera's ear, everything she thought she knew about survival shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. "You're not safe," he whispered, his voice rough with command and something darker, something that made her knees weak even as terror clawed at her throat. "Pretend I'm your husband." His arm wrapped around Vera's shoulders, protective, possessive, dangerous, and she could feel the heat of him through her thin cloak, could smell pine and smoke and something wild that called to a part of her she'd spent 23 years trying to ignore. Behind them, council soldiers flanked every exit of the castle courtyard, their eyes glowing amber in the torchlight, wolves barely contained beneath human skin. They'd come for her, for Vera Dillon, the hybrid abomination who dared to exist without permission, without papers, without the council's blessings stamped across her forehead like a brand. And now the Alpha King of the Northern Territories was claiming her as his wife. Let's go back to where this impossible story really begins, because it doesn't start with a rescue. It starts 3 nights ago in the Thornwood Forest, where Vera was gathering bloodroot by moonlight and trying not to think about the fact that she'd never belong anywhere. That's when she saw him for the first time. The wolf appeared between the ancient oaks like something out of a fever dream, massive, silver-gray fur rippling over muscles that could tear through steel, eyes burning gold in the darkness. But it wasn't his size that froze Vera in place, it was the way he looked at her, like he knew her, like he'd been searching for her his entire life. Then Arthur shifted, and Vera's world tilted sideways. One moment, predator, the next, a man, broad-shouldered and battle-scarred, wearing nothing but moonlight and authority that radiated from him like heat from a forge. His face was all sharp angles and fierce beauty, dark hair falling across eyes that hadn't stopped burning even in human form. "What are you?" Arthur's voice was gravel and honey, commander and lover rolled into one impossible combination. Vera should have lied, should have run. Instead, she told him the truth. "I don't know." Those 3 words might have been the first thread that bound them together. Or maybe it was fate, destiny, whatever name you give to that force that grabs 2 souls and refuses to let go. Arthur came back the next night, and the night after that. He never explained why, just showed up at the forest edge where Vera gathered her healing herbs, watching her work with an intensity that should have frightened her, but instead made her feel seen for the first time in her 23 years. They talked about everything and nothing. Arthur told Vera about the burden of leadership, how every decision he made affected hundreds of lives, how the crown felt heavier than any physical weight. Vera told him about growing up, neither fully human nor fully wolf, belonging nowhere, trusted by no one, always existing in the spaces between worlds. "You belong," Arthur said on that 3rd night, his hand reaching out to touch Vera's face with a gentleness that contradicted everything he'd heard about the ruthless Alpha King. "You just haven't found your place yet." Vera wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly. That's when her world collapsed. The High Council issued an order that same evening. All unregistered hybrids were to be brought before them for evaluation. Everyone knew what that meant: execution. They called people like Vera abominations, threats to the pure bloodlines, dangerous variables in their carefully controlled world. Vera's mother had been hiding her daughter's existence for over 2 decades, but someone had seen Vera with Arthur, someone had talked, and now soldiers bearing the council's seal were marching toward their village, toward their home, toward Vera. She ran. What else could she do? Her mother pushed her out the back door with tears streaming down her face, pressing a small silver pendant into Vera's palm. "Find him," she whispered. "Find the Alpha King. He's the only one powerful enough to protect you now." So Vera ran through darkening woods toward the northern castle, praying Arthur would help her, praying she'd make it before the soldiers caught her trail. Her lungs burned, branches tore at her burgundy cloak, fear tasted like copper in her mouth. She made it to the castle courtyard just as the gates were closing for the night, and that's when they found her, council soldiers, their wolves already rising to the surface, teeth bared, ready to drag her back to face judgment and death. Then Arthur appeared, like an avenging angel, like salvation wrapped in darkness and danger, and that black armor that caught the torchlight like captured stars. His command echoed across the courtyard, making even the stones seem to tremble. "She's under my protection." The soldiers hesitated. Even council guards thought twice before challenging the Alpha King. But their leader stepped forward, a cruel smile twisting his scarred face. "She's unregistered, Your Majesty. Council law supersedes even your authority. She must face evaluation." That's when Arthur moved closer to Vera, pulling her against him with that firm, possessive grip that made her breath catch. When his lips brushed her ear with those shocking words that would change both their lives forever. "You're not safe. Pretend I'm your husband." Vera's mind went blank. Husband? What was he doing? But Arthur was already speaking, his voice carrying that alpha command that made lesser wolves instinctively submit, made even the torches seem to burn brighter. "You're mistaken. This is Vera Gilsby, my wife. We were married in the old tradition 2 months ago." Arthur's eyes swept the courtyard, daring anyone to challenge him. "Or are you suggesting the Alpha King's mate needs to register with your council?" The silence that fell was absolute, devastating, beautiful. Vera should have pulled away, should have told the truth. Instead, she let her body lean into Arthur's, feeling the solid strength of him against her back, his heartbeat steady where hers was chaos. She played her part, because what choice did she have? Death or deception? Truth or survival? The soldier's face went pale. Challenging an alpha's mate was grounds for execution. But the doubt in his eyes was clear as daylight, the suspicion. "There's been no announcement of a royal wedding," he said carefully, weighing each word. Arthur's arm tightened around Vera, protective and possessive, in a way that made her skin heat despite the danger. "Because I chose to keep my private life private. My mistake, clearly. Should I have invited the council to witness our mating bond as well?" Heat flooded Vera's face. The intimate implication hung in the air like smoke. Around them, pack members had gathered, drawn by the confrontation. Vera could feel their eyes, their questions, their shock rippling through the crowd like stones thrown in still water. "Proof," the soldier demanded, his voice harder now. "Show us the mate mark." Vera's blood turned to ice. Mate marks were sacred, permanent, a bond that formed when true mates completed their connection. She didn't have one because Arthur and Vera weren't actually mated. They barely knew each other. This was an elaborate lie to save her life, but it was about to crumble into dust. Unless... Arthur moved before Vera could process what was happening. His hand slid to her neck, tilting her head to expose her throat in a gesture of trust and submission that went against every survival instinct. Then his lips were there, hot against her pulse point, and Vera felt his canines lengthen, felt the sharp pressure. He bit her. Not deep enough to truly mark her, but enough that when Arthur pulled back, there were 2 small puncture wounds visible on Vera's neck. enough that it looked real in the flickering torchlight, real enough to fool soldiers who wanted to believe their king over their orders. Satisfied? Arthur's voice was ice and fury mixed together. Or would you like to inspect my mate more thoroughly? The threat was clear. The soldier backed down, as they always did when Arthur used that tone. But as the guards retreated, promising to report back to the council, Vera knew this was far from over. This was just the beginning of something that would either save them both or destroy them completely. Arthur capped his arm around Vera until the soldiers disappeared through the gates. Then he turned her to face him, his eyes searching hers with an intensity that stole what little breath she had left. "Are you all right?" Vera touched her neck where his teeth had been. Not bleeding, barely even marked. He'd been careful, controlled, precise. "You just told the entire council that I'm your wife."
I did. Why? Something raw flickered across Arthur's face, vulnerability that didn't belong on an alpha king, that made him look almost human. Because I couldn't let them take you, because... He stopped, jaw clenching. "Come inside. We need to talk. Now." Before we go deeper into what happened next, here's what you need to understand. This story gets more intense with every single moment. If you're feeling what Vera's feeling right now, that mixture of fear and hope and dangerous attraction that makes your heart race, would you hit that like button and subscribe to Lunar Mate Stories? Because what happens between Vera and Arthur gets so much more complicated. Turn on notifications too, because you're not going to want to miss what the council does when they discover the truth. Trust me on this one. Inside Arthur's private chambers, reality crashed down on Vera like an avalanche. Tapestries depicting wolf legends covered stone walls. A massive fireplace crackled with warmth. Everything spoke of power, legacy, permanence. And Vera was standing in the middle of it wearing a torn cloak, with fake bite marks on her neck, pretending to be something she wasn't. "This can't work," Vera said, her voice shaking. "They'll investigate. They'll discover we're not actually mated. And when they do, then we make it real." Vera stared at Arthur. "What?" Arthur moved to a cabinet, pouring amber liquid into 2 glasses. His hands were steady, but Vera could sense the tension coiling through his body like a spring wound too tight. "The council won't stop, Vera. They'll dig until they find proof our marriage is fake. But if we complete the mating bond..." He handed Vera a glass. "They can't touch you. A true mate bond is sacred law. Even the council won't violate that. You're talking about marking me, actually marking me." The glass trembled in Vera's hand. "That's permanent, Arthur, forever. You'd be bound to me, and I'm nobody. I'm not even a full wolf. You're the alpha king. You could have anyone." "I don't want anyone." The words were quiet, but they hit like thunder. "When I saw you in that forest 3 days ago, something in me recognized something in you. My wolf knew before I did. Why do you think I kept coming back?" Vera's heart was doing dangerous things in her chest. "We barely know each other. I know you gather bloodroot even though it's poisonous because you're not afraid of dangerous things. I know you talk to injured birds like they understand you. I know you've been alone your whole life and you're tired of it." Arthur set down his glass and stepped closer. "I know that when I pulled you against me tonight, you fit like you were made for that space." God help her. Arthur was right. Vera had fit, like a key in a lock, like coming home to a place she'd never been. "And what happens when you regret this?" Vera whispered. "When you realize you've bound yourself to protect someone who brought nothing but trouble? Then I'll deal with it." Arthur's hand cupped Vera's face, thumb brushing her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "But I don't think I will. Do you want to know what I think, Vera?" Vera couldn't speak, could only nod, her breath caught somewhere between her lungs and her throat. "I think you're my mate, my true mate. I think the moon goddess put you in that forest the same day I was hunting there. I think this isn't protection. It's destiny, finally catching up with us both. The logical part of Vera's brain screamed that this was insane. You didn't build a life with someone after 3 days. You didn't accept a permanent soul bond with a man you barely knew, no matter how powerful, how protective, how perfect his lips looked in the firelight. But the wolf in Vera, that dormant, sleeping part of her she'd tried to ignore her whole life, was waking up, rising, recognizing her mate standing right in front of her. If we do this, Vera said slowly, each word carefully chosen, if we complete the bond, there's no going back. Are you sure? Are you? Fair question. Was Vera sure? Was she willing to bind herself to this Alpha King, knowing it would paint a target on both their backs? The council wouldn't accept this easily. They'd see it as defiance, treason maybe. Arthur would be choosing Vera over political alliances, over centuries of pure bloodline traditions, over everything his position demanded. But when Vera looked into Arthur's eyes, she saw something that made her decision inevitable. She saw someone who understood loneliness, someone who'd spent years making decisions for everyone else while sacrificing what he wanted, someone who was choosing her. Broken, hybrid, dangerous her, knowing full well what it would cost him. Yes, Vera breathed. I'm sure. The words were barely out before Arthur's mouth was on Vera's, not gentle this time, claiming, desperate. His hands tangled in her hair as he kissed her like she was air, and he'd been drowning for years. Vera kissed him back with equal hunger, equal need, feeling that dormant wolf inside her stretching, stirring, responding to her mate. When Arthur pulled back, his eyes had shifted to wolf gold. This will hurt, the marking, but I'll be as gentle as I can. I trust you. 3 words, but they meant everything. Arthur guided Vera to his bed, massive, covered in furs and soft blankets that probably cost more than her entire village. His hands were careful as he moved her hair aside, exposing her neck fully. Vera could feel his breath, warm against her skin, feel the moment his wolf rose completely to the surface. Mine, Arthur growled, and then his canines sank deep. Pain exploded white-hot through Vera's system, but underneath it, something else bloomed. Connection, recognition, like invisible threads weaving between them, tying soul to soul, heart to heart. Vera gasped, clutching Arthur's shoulders, as the mate bond snapped into place with devastating intensity. She felt everything. Arthur's emotions flooding into her. Desire, yes, but also fierce protectiveness, genuine affection, and underneath it all, a loneliness that matched her own. He'd been waiting for this, for Vera, for someone who saw past the crown to the man beneath. When Arthur released his bite, Vera felt his tongue soothing the wound, sealing the mark that would now be visible to every wolf who looked at her. Permanent proof that she belonged to the Alpha King, that he belonged to her. Vera. Her name sounded like a prayer on Arthur's lips. Can you feel it? Yes. Vera could barely speak through the overwhelming sensation of their bond settling into place like puzzle pieces finally finding their home. Arthur pulled Vera against him, and they lay there in the firelight, both trembling from the magnitude of what they'd just done. Through their new connection, Vera felt Arthur's wonder matching hers. This wasn't just protection anymore. This was real, terrifyingly, beautifully real. The council will come tomorrow, Arthur murmured against Vera's hair. When they see the completed bond, there will be consequences. What kind of consequences? They'll try to separate us. They'll claim I was compromised, that you manipulated me somehow. They'll challenge my leadership. Arthur's arm tightened around Vera. But they can't break a true mate bond. No one can. We face whatever comes together now. Together. Vera had spent 23 years alone, and now she had this impossibly powerful alpha promising her together. I'm scared, Vera admitted. Good. Fear keeps us sharp. Arthur tilted Vera's face up to look at him. But I need you to understand something. I don't regret this. Whatever happens tomorrow, next week, next year, I chose you, Vera. I'll keep choosing you. Those words undid something broken inside Vera that she hadn't even known needed healing. Vera kissed Arthur again, slower this time, savoring the taste of him, the solid reality of him. Through their bond, she felt his response, desire mixed with tenderness, passion tempered by care. This was her mate, her alpha, hers. They made love that night with the fire burning low, and the mate bond singing between them like music. Arthur was gentle and demanding by turns, teaching Vera's body what it meant to belong to someone, showing her what true connection felt like. And when they finally collapsed into exhausted sleep, tangled together under soft furs, Vera felt safe for the first time in her life. But safety is always temporary, especially when you've challenged the most powerful council in the territories. Dawn came too quickly. Sunlight streamed through windows, illuminating the marks on Vera's neck. Arthur's claiming bite, red and obvious against her pale skin. Arthur was already awake, watching Vera with an expression she couldn't quite read through the bond. "Lehir," Arthur said quietly. "I can feel them gathering at the gates. The entire High Council." Vera's stomach dropped. All of them? All 7. Plus witnesses. They're not taking chances. Arthur brushed a strand of hair from Vera's face. "Get dressed. Whatever happens in that throne room, remember, you're my mate, my equal, my queen, if you'll have the title. Don't bow to them. Don't apologize for existing." Queen. The word felt foreign, impossible. But through their bond, Vera felt Arthur's certainty. He meant it. Every single word. Vera dressed in clothes Arthur's staff brought, a deep burgundy gown that made her look like someone important, someone worthy of an alpha king. In the mirror, Vera barely recognized herself.
The frightened healer's daughter was gone. In her place stood someone harder, stronger, marked. Arthur's hand found Vera's as they walked toward the throne room. "Whatever they say, whatever they threaten, stay beside me. I'm not going anywhere." The throne room was packed. All 7 council members sat in their ceremonial seats, faces carved from stone. Behind them, witnesses from every major pack in the territories. This wasn't just a hearing, this was a trial. Elder Marcus, the council leader, stood as Arthur and Vera entered. His eyes went immediately to the mark on Vera's neck, and she watched his expression darken like storm clouds gathering. "Arthur Gilpay, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, you stand accused of violating sacred law by mating with an unregistered hybrid without council approval." Arthur's hand tightened on Vera's. "I stand accused of following my heart and honoring the moon goddess's will. My mate is no criminal." "She is unregistered, unverified. Her bloodline is questionable at best." "Her bloodline," Arthur interrupted, his voice sharp as steel, "is none of your concern. The mate bond is sacred. Or have you forgotten the old laws you claim to uphold?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Arthur was right. The old laws predated the council by centuries. They stated that mate bonds were chosen by the moon goddess herself and couldn't be questioned or broken by mortal authority. But Elder Marcus wasn't finished. The old laws applied to natural bonds formed between registered wolves. She is neither. We have grounds to claim this bond is illegitimate. "Then test it," Arthur pulled Vera forward. "Test the mate bond. If you find it false, I'll submit to your judgment. But when you find it real, you'll acknowledge Vera as my queen and drop these charges." The challenge hung in the air like a sword. Bond testing was rare, invasive, dangerous, but it was the only way to prove beyond doubt that a mating was genuine. Elder Marcus's smile was cold as winter. "Very well. We'll convene the testing ritual at sunset. But know this, Alpha King. If the bond is found false, the penalty is death. For both of you."
Vera's blood turned to ice. Arthur had just gambled both their lives on this bond that was less than a day old. Listen, I need to pause here for just a moment, because if you're still with me, if your heart is racing like it's trying to escape your chest, I want to make sure you don't miss what happens next. The council's response is brutal. Arthur's enemies make their move, and Vera discovers something about herself that changes absolutely everything. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for Luna Mate Stories. This story is far from over, and you need to see how it ends. The day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Arthur spent it preparing Vera, explaining what the testing ritual would entail. Council shamans would attempt to sever their bond using ancient magic. If the bond was false or weak, it would break like spider silk. If it was real, it would hold no matter what they threw it at it. It's going to hurt, Arthur warned Vera. The ritual is designed to cause pain, to test the bond's resilience under extreme duress. But I'll be right there with you. You won't face it alone. At sunset, Arthur and Vera returned to the throne room. The council had prepared a ceremonial circle inscribed with symbols Vera didn't recognize. Old magic, forbidden magic, the kind that made the air itself taste like copper and ash. 4 shamans stood at cardinal points, their faces painted with ritual markings that seemed to move in the torchlight. They began chanting before Arthur and Vera even stepped into the circle, their voices rising in discordant harmony that made Vera's teeth ache. Arthur and Vera stepped into the circle together, hands clasped. The moment they crossed the boundary, Vera felt something shift, magic, old and powerful and angry, wrapping around them like chains. Elder Marcus began chanting in a language Vera didn't understand, words that felt like knives scraping against her bones. The shamans joined him, their voices rising higher, more insistent. Then, the pain started. It felt like someone was trying to tear Vera's soul in half. She screamed, clutching Arthur's hand as agony ripped through every nerve, every cell, every atom of her being. Through their bond, Vera felt Arthur's pain too, doubled, devastating, a burning that threatened to consume them both. But underneath the pain, Vera felt something else. Arthur's determination, his absolute refusal to let go, his wolf snarling in defiance at anyone who dared try to separate them. The shamans intensified their ritual. The magic pulled harder, trying to snap the threads binding Arthur and Vera together like scissors cutting silk. Vera felt Arthur's wolf surge, felt his complete rejection of separation. And her own dormant wolf, that part of her she'd never fully accessed, never truly understood, suddenly surged to the surface with savage, protective ferocity. That's when everything changed. Power exploded from somewhere deep inside Vera, not human, not wolf, something else entirely, something ancient and terrifying and beautiful. The ceremonial circle shattered, sending shamans stumbling backward. Light poured from Vera's skin, blinding and pure as starlight. Through the chaos, Vera heard Elder Marcus gasp, "Impossible! She's moon-blessed!" The pain vanished instantly. Vera stood there, panting, still glowing with whatever power had awakened in her like a sleeping dragon. Arthur stared at her with wonder and shock and something that looked suspiciously like pride. What? Vera couldn't finish the question, couldn't form words around the power still humming through her veins. "Moon-blessed," Elder Marcus repeated, his voice shaken for the first time Vera had ever heard. Children born with the moon goddess's direct blessing. They're myths, legends. There hasn't been one in over 3 centuries. The throne room erupted in chaos. Pack members fell to their knees. Even the council members looked shaken, uncertain, their carefully constructed authority crumbling like sandcastles. Moon-blessed wolves were sacred, protectors chosen by the goddess herself to guard the balance between worlds, to stand between darkness and light. Arthur pulled Vera close, and through their bond she felt his fierce pride, his absolute certainty that this was always who she was meant to be. "I knew you were special," Arthur murmured against her hair. "I just didn't know how much." Elder Marcus approached slowly, all his earlier hostility gone like smoke. "Your Majesty, Queen Vera, we had no idea. The Council offers our deepest apologies. A moon-blessed cannot be questioned or tested. Your bond is beyond our authority, beyond anyone's authority." Just like that, it was over. The charges dropped, their mating recognized, their bond validated, not just by shamans and rituals, but by the moon goddess herself. But more than that, Vera finally understood why she'd never fit anywhere. She wasn't meant to be fully human or fully wolf. She was meant to be something in between, something rare, something that territories desperately needed, even if they didn't know it yet. "What does this mean?" Vera asked later, back in his chambers, still trying to process everything that had happened. "It means you're more powerful than the Council, more powerful than most alphas." Arthur stroked Vera's hair gently. "It means the moon goddess brought us together for a reason. Whatever's coming, whatever threats the territories will face, we're meant to face them together." "That's terrifying." "I know." Arthur kissed Vera's forehead. "But also perfect, because I don't want to face anything without you." Over the following weeks, Vera learned to access her moon-blessed abilities. She could heal with a touch, sense threats before they materialized, strengthen pack bonds with her presence alone. Arthur was right. The goddess had brought them together for a purpose that was bigger than either of them. But more importantly, Vera learned what it meant to be loved. Truly, completely, unconditionally loved. Arthur showed her every day in 1,000 small ways, through protective gestures, through late-night conversations, through the way he looked at her like she was his entire world condensed into one person. Yes, there were challenges. Council members who resented Vera's sudden power, rival packs who tested their borders, the constant pressure of ruling territories that spanned hundreds of miles and thousands of wolves. But Arthur and Vera faced it all together, Alpha King and Moon-blessed Queen, mates bound by destiny and choice in equal measure. And every night, when Vera lay in Arthur's arms, feeling their bond pulse between them like a second heartbeat, she remembered that moment in the courtyard when he'd whispered those words that changed everything. "You're not safe. Pretend I'm your husband." Arthur had saved Vera that night, but really, they'd saved each other. From loneliness, from duty without joy, from lives half-lived and hearts only partially open. The mate bond had shocked everyone, the council, the packs, probably even the moon goddess herself smiled at how perfectly it worked. But not Arthur and Vera. They'd known from that first meeting in the forest that something inevitable was unfolding between them. Love, destiny, fate, whatever name you want to give it. All Vera knew was that she was finally home. Not in a place, but in a person. In the arms of an alpha king who'd risked everything to protect a woman he barely knew, who'd seen past what she wasn't to what she was always meant to be. And that was the most shocking thing of all. Thank you for staying with me through Vera and Arthur's journey, from that terrifying moment in the courtyard to this beautiful resolution. If this story touched your heart, If you felt every moment of fear and hope and desperate love, I'd be so grateful if you subscribed to Luna Mate Stories. There are more stories coming, more mates finding each other against impossible odds, more forbidden love, more destiny refusing to be denied. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Until then, may you find someone who sees you the way Arthur saw Vera, completely, truly, without reservation. See you in the next story.